Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. Today marks the beginning of our latest series of webinars from the Floriology Institute. In addition to the hands-on design classes with our AIFD accredited instructors, we started to incorporate business and marketing workshops as well with our in-house experts throughout the course. Many florists have reached out to us regularly with questions about their website and online marketing, so we went ahead and turned those conversations into the topics of this month's webinar for a series we'd like to have called Let's Get Content Crazy. Today's session is Blog Writing Made Easy. Creating fresh content is really the #1 activity that the experts of Google have recommended to raise your website ranking so your shop is at the top of the search results page. Although the basic search engine optimization, or SEO, is still important, Google has an algorithm that pays close attention to website changes like text, photos, or videos. Basically, the bottom line is that the more changes we make, the better. But don't think the changes should be anything too drastic or time-consuming. So today, Renato Cruz-Gecko, our Floriology Institute business instructor and BloomNet VP of Digital Strategy and Education, will show you how to kickstart the easy process of developing blog topics, how to write short and sweet posts, the best practices to gather media such as photos and videos, and show you how to prepare all of this content in ways to publish it to your social media. Please note that if you have any questions throughout this broadcast, please feel free to ask them and we will answer them at the end. This webinar will also be available for you to refer back to later on, so you can always review it whenever you need a little bit of a refresher. As always, all of us here at Floriology are available for you to email with any question you may have at any time. And for more information about our courses here at Floriology Institute, including our hands-on classes, course schedules, and blogs, visit floriologyinstitute.com for details. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and please enjoy part 1 of our blog series, Content Crazy. At this point in time, our VP of Digital Strategy and Education, Renato, will be jumping on to start the webinar.
Hey, Sam, thank you very much. I just wanted to add something to Sam's instructions regarding questions. On your control panel, you'll see a little tab there for questions. So if you could just open it up, and if you do have a question, go ahead and type it in. Sam will be monitoring these questions throughout the webinar, so hopefully we'll get to all the questions. So let's go ahead and start. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Let's get content crazy, how to write blogs. So I think the first question, and I know it may sound basic, but I think we want to get everyone on the same page. Literally, what is content? So what is meant by content? It's primarily 4 elements that we could affect. That's really text, photos, videos, and links. So obviously with blogs, we'll talk mostly about text, but we'll definitely cover photos, videos, and links as well. So the next thing that we need to talk about is, where is this content? So when we talk about content, these are posts on social media, and like anything on social media that you may have affected to give information about your business. Content could also include comments that are generated from your posts. So these are user-generated comments, so very valuable content. Next is business citation, and all business citation is just your business listing. And this would appear on online directories or references like Google Business, Yelp, Bing Places. Just like a quick tip is that for this business citation, it's very, very important that this business citation is accurate and the same across all of these properties. Next one is ratings and reviews. So when we talk about that, these are the reviews that people would leave you either on your website if you have a way to collect the ratings and reviews, or on Google Business or Yelp. So again, like posts and comments on posts, this content is very powerful since it's user-generated. So when we have talked to our folks our partners at Google, they had mentioned that that's why it's very powerful content, because it's not you generating it, it's other people. And of course, the last place where content would exist is on your website, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Although we are focusing on blogs, the thing that we need to consider is that content also exists as just page content. You know, the headlines, the paragraphs that you would have on the page, and also, and this is what people don't realize, SEO changes or text that's in the HTML code that you won't necessarily see, you know, when you look at a page. So let's talk a little bit about why content matters. Google confirms content is really the most important, like what Sam said, is the most important factor in their local search algorithm. So, you know, when all SEO practices are the same and equal among competitors, what's left? It's how much content and the quality of content is on a website. So, you know, the reason why this is important, because if you think about it, florist websites are very similar. You know, you guys are probably selling the same categories. And especially if you may belong to a wire service, you may be selling a lot of the same arrangements and designs. So content really defines your brand and allows you to distinguish yourself from these competitors, which is very important. Next is content that you write on your site. There's two things with SEO. It strengthens and it complements SEO work. So we'll talk about this a little later, but there is a strong connection between SEO and the content that you should be putting on your site. It should really complement it. And this, of course, helps with ranking. So the last thing is, content also strengthens and complements SEM campaigns. And a lot of people may say, well, how does it do that? Well, all the keywords that you would use in your SEM campaigns would be considered content. Although this is like paid stuff, it still matters. And of course, this when the content in your SEM campaigns and on your website is complementary, then your Google ad ranking goes higher when you're using their service, AdWords. So let's talk a little bit about general content best practices, and this will carry over a little bit into our next series with social. So a lot of this stuff that we're talking about will definitely apply to that webinar, so don't miss that webinar. So, we talked at the beginning what content types there are. There was text, but there's also video and photos. So just do this as a habit. Everyone is carrying around a smartphone, and what people don't realize sometimes is like a smartphone is such a powerful media capture tool. So at the shop or job site, wherever you are, if you're at, setting up for a wedding or doing some other event, use your smartphone to capture 3 to 4 photos, and I would stress take a 30-second video describing the floral design, how you were inspired, the conversations that you may have had with the bride, any floral trends that you've incorporated, at that event. And the important thing with photos and videos, if you think about it, they're not text, right? So it's super, super important that you tag all this stuff in the alt tag, especially in the alt tag for photos and videos, and place descriptions in the video, because Google has no way to determine the content of a photo or video unless you deliberately place a description or an alt tag. Very important. Also, you'd be in compliance with ADA guidelines regarding websites to allow folks who are visually impaired to browse your websites. Next, content best practice. Google recommends changing content every day. I know that sounds crazy, but if you think about it, that's the only way that you could really get ahead of your competitors that are probably trying to do the same thing. So when we talk every day, one thing that Google shared with us is that their algorithm has changed over the years. I think before people used to think, well, as long as I made a change within a 2-week period, Google will scan my site and count that as a change and then up my ranking. Well, what they shared with me is that, say for example, Florist A, they changed their website on Monday, and then Google checks it. but they don't change their site till Wednesday or like Thursday. So Google checks it Tuesday, and then Google checks it Wednesday, no change, and then Google checks it on Wednesday. So Google says, you know, their algorithm then determines that the next change will probably, or the next scan of your website will probably happen on the 4th day. You know, that's just a piece of information that they shared with me. So if you have Florist B that had changed that website Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when's the next interval that Google will check that website? Probably on Thursday, just because Google notices that, okay, this florist, you know, changes their website more often, and that equates to higher ranking. So the next thing that I think a lot of people, you know, have a question about is whether or not to blog within the website or create a totally separate website and blog outside and then drive in links to that website. But I got the definitive answer from Google, and they said blogging within the website is the best practice. Why? Because for one thing, Google actually doesn't like it when florists have multiple websites, even if that other website is, you know, something of a, you know, something that, you know, represents a specific category of your business, such as, like, you know, I know a lot of florists have wedding websites. So, you know, the reason is twofold. For one, you know, like I said, the main reason, you know, the main ranking algorithm loves change. So if you had a blog within your website, you're able to make that change instantly. Next, you know, like what I said, you know, you will, you know, a lot of people, you know, create a blog that's outside the website. So in essence, you're now maintaining two websites, which, of course, you know, represents a little overhead. So, like, I know a lot of you are Bloomnet florists, and and a lot of you use a commerce system. So I'm just going to take a quick moment to show you where you would activate the blog in your website system. So this is the commerce backend. So you'll see this is the settings tab. So if you were to click on the settings, this screen would appear. And then you see the site tools tab. You would just click on that and click yes for is blogs enabled. So the next thing you do after that, now since the blog is enabled, you would hit the blog menu item on the left. It would take you to now your new blog page. So now you're ready to add your first blog. The thing I would pay attention to here is that one thing wonderful about you know, this tool is that you could schedule this stuff. So you don't necessarily have to schedule times throughout the week that you blog. You could actually write maybe 2 or 3 blogs and post when they're scheduled to publish using this mechanism. So after that, you hit that tab, blog content at the top, which takes you to another page, and this is where you could input your text. So this box right here is where you would input your text. And remember I mentioned to you that you know, there are other types of content such as photo and video. You know, the one thing that Google had stressed to us is that they really are keen on ranking sites higher that use video. So you'll see that there's a YouTube button here, and we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end of the webinar. But you know, everyone will start blogging. Everyone has text. The one thing that Google says could differentiate one florist from another is their use of video. So that's the commerce system. So let's just talk, let's get more into content and talk general content best practices. So when you think of creating your story online and distinguishing yourself from your competitor, it's always better to think topical rather than general about your business. Remember, there are lots of florists out there, so you don't want to represent yourself as another florist. You really want to represent yourself as a florist that does these specific things. So Google ranks websites higher if they have a definitive hierarchy or taxonomy. Lots of florist websites already do this. So one thing that we need to do is we have to focus on developing topics that reflect your business segments. So let's jump into that just a little deeper. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lay out what your website may probably look like. So on your home page, you'll have very general keywords to basically identify you as that florist in a certain delivery area, with cities, your phone number to identify you as a local florist. But like I said, we talked about these big business segments that could allow you to distinguish yourself. So, like we had talked about that, how a lot of florists are the same. They probably have the same business segments, which is fine. However, the thing that differentiates you from other florists are probably the venues that you service. So like you see right here, like for weddings, in my particular area, I have St. Leo's Catholic Church, Fairfax Country Club, Chantilly Country Club. On my events subpage, my keywords will probably be Hyatt Regency Fairfax, George Mason University. I really need to update these slides because I just moved down to Jacksonville and I realized that, this is not a good reference, but that's okay. So anyway, let's talk about this. So you know your business, you know what's happening, you know all the business activity that's happening in and around these categories. So I know that florists have a lot more categories than these, but I could only fit 3 on a page, so that's all we're going to show you. So like, for example, on the weddings subpage, what kind of work is happening that week? So that particular weekend, you may be doing the flowers for the Jones and Smith wedding, or you may be doing a reception for the Berg and Hoyt families at the Fairfax Country Club, or a bar mitzvah at the Chantilly Country Club, or if you do a lot of events, you're doing the VMware corporate retreat, the HP Great Ideas Conference, at these certain venues. So if you think about it, these are very unique stories that just relate to your particular business, because hopefully, they didn't hire 2 florists to do these same events, which is not really within the realm of reality, right? So let's talk a little bit about the content creation process. What we recommend is that, have a weekly staff meeting. I say Monday. That way you could reflect on business activity that has happened over the past weekend. And you could also think ahead, so you could start, maybe creating ideas for blog posts, for promos, for events in the upcoming week. The bottom line for this exercise is that you want to develop a list of potential blogs, right? So remember I mentioned to you, and I probably scared you a little bit earlier when I said Google likes change every day. Well, you know what they said to me? Well, Renato, the change doesn't have to be huge. What they actually see is, like, if there's any little change, they mark that in their algorithm. So what they had said is, it doesn't have to be long. It could even be less than 100 words. So I pressed them a little further. Does it even have to be 100 words? He goes, and they were like, it could even be a sentence. As long as there's a change on the website, their local search algorithm will boost ranking. So now let's think of these keywords that you need to include in all your blog posts. We have to think like the consumer, because what are the keywords that a consumer would type to find these posts and build relevance for your website? Well, consumers think in flower varieties. They think in color. They don't necessarily think in relevant trends, but a lot of brides may. They'll definitely think in occasion or holiday. And one thing that we found in research is that they will type in the venue. So if you think of a bride that is scoping out, like a particular country club for their wedding reception, they're going to type in that country club's name, as well as maybe the color of the theme, the color of their wedding, as well as any flower varieties they may prefer. So it's very important to write all this information. So okay, if you think about this shouldn't be a tough process, because if you're doing this event, you've spoken to the bride, you know where it is, you know your flowers, you know the colors. Literally, this exercise should take you less than 30 seconds because you know all this information. So right now, just think of an event that you just did, maybe this past weekend, maybe even an event you did 2 weeks ago. It's still fresh in your memory. So this is a sample blog that I wrote that took me less than 30 seconds. And I'm officially not a florist, but I definitely know what's going on. So let's read it. So for Emma and Jim's wedding reception at the Deerwood Country Club, we adorned the head table with white, pink, and purple calla lily flowers in the centerpieces. The bride's hand-tied bouquet included the same callas. That is only 36 words. So I'm sure if you did this exercise just now, you are able to write 2 to 3 sentences and you immediately have a blog post of this event. So like I mentioned, content is also photos and videos. So include those photos and videos with this blog post. And like what we mentioned, you could write and schedule your blog post to publish during the week. So, you could take maybe a good 30 minutes to write maybe 3 or 4 blog posts, and then you schedule them to publish that week. This is a really powerful tool. And, let's be sure to, to schedule these posts at kind of odd times. Like, I know that sounds odd, but it's being authentic while being unauthentic, I guess, because rather than post things at 4 p.m. on the dot, post something at 4:43 or 2:21. I think you get the idea. So now that we've talked about posting through the blog, let's go ahead and prep for our next session for March 22nd. Before then, definitely create, if you haven't already done so, a YouTube channel and upload video that you've captured. Next thing you do, from these blog posts, you want to extract hashtags, and these will primarily be used if you happen to use Twitter or Instagram. So from that blog post that we just wrote, some good hashtags would be hashtag calla lilies, wedding flowers, pink, use the colors, hand-tied bouquet. So like I mentioned, use the blog post as a source and tweak for the appropriate social media. We'll talk about this in length when we talk about social in the next series. Let's Get Content Crazy, how to post to social media on March 22nd at 4 p.m. So that session was, I know, very short and sweet, but we didn't want to overwhelm you too much with information. So how about we see if there's any questions, and we'll spend the next 10 minutes addressing any questions. Sam, are there any questions in the queue?
Actually, we do have a couple. Let's go ahead and start with this first one. We were asked, does blog text have to be the right grammar?
Very good question. I did ask that because I think, lots of people, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever, when, people were trying to get their pages ranked high, they would load their pages just full of the same keywords. Google recognizes that, and they actually ding you in rank. They'll actually lower your rank if they see that you're keyword stuffing. They want to see your keywords within within context and within a full sentence. So definitely write as you're speaking to a customer. Don't write for the search engine. Good question.
Okay, so that one actually answers another question that came through about repeating the keywords, as you just said. Okay, so another question that we have is, what about if I also sell other things like chocolates and home decor, things that aren't flowers? Should I be including these in my keywords?
Yeah, definitely. But let me add something to that question. Okay, you saw how most florists would have a sub-page for like like birthday flowers, or a sub-page for weddings or events. If you do sell stuff like that, like chocolate or even home decor items, I know a lot of florists sell a lot of home decor items, I would go ahead and create a separate sub-page and, like to feature those home decor items, and, start using all the keywords necessary to, populate those pages.
Very good. And then just one last question about initiating intra-site links. Is that something that's good enough or worth including in your blog post?
Yeah, definitely, because I think a lot of people have this idea that the more links in their website, the better. But if you think about it, these, most people would include links that permit the user to leave their site. So you never want to do that. And in essence, what you're doing is like, you're basically saying to this person, this other website is a better authority on this topic than myself. So go ahead and leave my website and visit that other website. It doesn't matter what reason. I mean, it could be that that link will go to like an allied photographer or baker or whatever. This is a great practice. If you have a lot of content on your website and you begin compiling a lot of blog posts on a variety of topics, it's a great practice to link to those other blog posts within blog posts. And I confirmed this with Google because they were saying, well, you know what, from our perspective, you are making it easier for the customer to find more information within your website. And you're also allowing yourself to be the authority on whatever topic that you decide to link. So that is absolutely a great practice.
All right. Well, at this point, there do not seem to be any other questions that are in the queue. Renato, is there any last thoughts you'd like to add?
Oh, you know what? I did see a question coming in. You know, a lot of people may not know what SEO and SEM is. So we'll go ahead and clear that up right now. So SEO means search engine optimization. So what you're doing in that practice is like, you remember that hierarchy that we showed you earlier? Here, I'll even go back to it. Oops. So we'll go back to this graph. Okay, maybe not. Hang tight, folks. Okay, we'll go back to this graph. So when you optimize your site for search or SEO, what you're doing is you're creating that hierarchy that we're talking about into your main page, which will be a lot more general because you're trying to attract as much traffic for general types of queries. So the most general type of query would be something like Fairfax, Virginia florist. So those type of keywords would be on your homepage. Now you get a lot of customers that will type very specific keywords, like I mentioned, that that bride that may is thinking about doing the reception at the Fairfax Country Club. So you would want to have those types of keywords on a subpage, like on your wedding subpage. So you would be search engine optimizing that subpage for those types of searches. SEM means search engine marketing. So those are that practice is literally just buying clicks of specific keywords that you think that people would type. You just outright pay for them, and it's really a bidding process where like there may be several people that may be wanting to pay for the same keywords for those clicks. So in essence, you end up bidding for them. We did a couple of webinars. You could find a replay of the SEO at FloriologyInstitute.com, and we will repeat those webinars in the near future.
Okay. Any last questions?
I don't believe any more are coming through now. Is there any last words you'd like to add in?
Sure. Content could be a very fun thing. I think, with this blog stuff, this is a great way to engage the consumer and educate them about you as a local retail florist and your specialties. And one thing I think people don't realize is that this is very easy to do. Like I mentioned, a lot of folks probably took the challenge and wrote up a blog post within 30 seconds after I kind of gave you the parameters of what you need to think about and what you need to write. So start doing this because it will have impact right away. Like the moment you activate the blog and start building content on your website, Google will notice. And like I said, try to do it consistently and often. The more often you do it, the more often that you'll get noticed by Google, and the likelihood of your ranking goes higher. So just get started. Yeah.
Sorry, there's just one more question.
Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead.
There's someone who'd like to know just a little bit more, just a quick recap about hashtags and the
power of the hashtag.
Oh, sure. Like I mentioned with hashtags, after you write your blog post, what you're doing with hashtags is you're really trying to distill even further that blog post of, like, say, 40 words or 100 words, just down to 3 or 5 words. That if people were doing searches in either Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or even on the internet, they may be, those hashtags, because you've hashed them, will stand out in these posts, and hopefully you will be seen within those searches, and people will be clicking on these posts. So that's the whole idea behind hashtags. It's really just to, again, make it easier for the, for the customer to find you. Okay, cool. So with that, thank you very much for attending this webinar. Again, this is a two-parter, so there's the first part, and the second part will be on March 22nd. I have in front of you a complete listing of the upcoming education, so a couple of webinars that we are developing beyond this month are best practices for building positive ratings and reviews. So we talked about that as a powerful piece of content within this own webinar. We are going to have a webinar on maximizing marketing to millennials. So we're collaborating with the American Floral Endowment to share their data and to augment their data with our own knowledge. We also have a couple of hands-on floral design courses, one from Anthony Swick, Prom and More. We will have one, as Sam mentioned, On the Road in Chicago, a certification and competition, a course with Jackie Lacey. He'll also have one in Jacksonville, June 4th through 6th. And this is something real new that I think may interest you if you are really into online learning. As part of Anthony's class, we will live stream a demo for about an hour of Anthony, producing 3 prom pieces. So in that course, it'll happen on March 20th at 2 p.m. You could literally just watch this video and go along with Anthony as he designs these pieces. We'll provide you with the product and the hard goods list, so you could build these pieces along with him. So I know that's only $14.99, and this is an exclusive only for BloomNet Florists. So check out, actually go to floriologyinstitute.com/live, LIVE, to register for that event. So with that, I think that's all we got today. And Sam, I thank you for moderating.
Sure, of course. And from all of us at Floriology Institute, thank you again for joining us today. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Renato directly, renato@floriologyinstitute.com. And always you can find more information at floriologyinstitute.com. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.